we can please begin with the Pledge of Allegiance. We could stand for that.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you for that. And sorry, this is a little different tonight since I'm remote and the rest of you are in person. We're glad that we are able to be back in person for our meetings, and hopefully we can all be there for the next meeting that way. We're also looking forward to having the public back at our meetings as soon as possible to actually be in the room. Mr. Chambers, if you could please take roll.
Mr. Hilbert? Here. Ms. Pavlik?
Here.
Mr. Ross? Here. Ms. Parkhurst?
Here.
Mr. Skidmore?
Here.
Thank you.
And I see the first item up is the approval of minutes, item B. And I would entertain a motion to approve the minutes.
I'll make a motion to approve all of the said minutes as stated. I'll second.
Thank you. Any questions or comments or clarifications? Hearing none, if you could call roll.
Ms. Parkhurst?
Aye.
Ms. Pavlik?
Aye.
Mr. Hilbert? Aye. Mr. Ross? Aye. Mr. Skidmore?
Aye.
Thank you.
And at this point in the agenda, I would ask if there are any additions, removals, or modifications or items that the board would like to have separated out from the consent agenda tonight. If not, if there would be a motion to accept the agenda in its the form as presented.
I'll make the motion.
I'll
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Ross. If you could please call roll.
Ms. Pavlik?
Aye.
Mr. Ross? Aye. Mr. Hilbert? Aye. Ms. Parkhurst?
Aye.
Mr. Skidmore?
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you. Your volumes just got much better. Thank you. And at this point, I'll hand it over to Mr. Sable.
Good evening. I'd like to start off this evening by recognizing each of our Board of Education members. It's a little more downscaled this year. Usually we have a big banner, often have students coming to help us recognize and thank our board members. Obviously with COVID-19 protocols, that's changed the picture a little bit. The COVID situation, though, I think makes us realize the importance of our elected board members. The fact that they have dedicated their time with very little pay in return in order to be representatives of the different segments of our community. When we go through a difficult time like we're in now, their role in voicing what's happening in the community and what different opinions are in the community are more important than ever. And I definitely want our community and our staff to know that each of our board members have continued to be advocates for our students throughout this entire pandemic. And I have no doubt that that is going to continue. I do regularly meet with superintendents across the state and even across the country. And I've said this to our board before, but we're very fortunate in Medina City Schools to have the kind of dedicated board members that we have, that are truly here for all of our students, that are willing to have open conversations. Sometimes it seems like the board meetings go very smoothly. A lot of the difficult discussions are happening outside of the meetings, though, so that we're prepared for the board meetings when it's time to present the items. So constant communication with the board, not only about board meeting items, but also daily goings on within the district are continually happening. Sometimes it's complete agreement, sometimes it's disagreement, and oftentimes it's a lot of debate. I think it's healthy though, because we have a board who will speak openly and honestly, and again, continue to be advocates of the community. And I want to thank each of our board members for your dedication to our students, your dedication to our staff, especially during these unprecedented times, because I know firsthand it hasn't been easy. And you've been a special group to really step up. So in terms of board appreciation, it means more this year than maybe ever because of what we've all been through. So thank you. Next up, I want to provide a brief update regarding the COVID situation in the district. I am going to keep it brief tonight simply because we did just have a board meeting last week. So many of the updates were provided then. We did have our students return to face-to-face instruction today in the schools. They were excited to be back. It was nice to see the cars parked outside the high school and the students back in our elementary buildings. Currently, the high school is operating on a hybrid model. We're looking at having the high school fully return in 2 weeks. So in a matter of a couple weeks, we are going to, for the first time since last March, have all of our students in our facilities at one time. I want to thank Dr. Kwolek, our high school safety committee, our district leadership committee for the work that they've done to get our students back into the buildings in a safe manner. It's taken a lot of adjustments to the way we normally operate and do things, but I think there are adjustments that not only are making our students safe, but they're also going to make us stronger as a district in the long run. As we continue with COVID, I am going to meet regularly with the health department and have those constant conversations. In addition, we will daily be reevaluating each of our buildings and our facilities and making decisions regarding what's the best thing to do with the COVID situation. That has been a concern that I've received regarding the high school. Not surprisingly, there is some anxiety amongst students and parents with them returning for the first time in such a long time while we're still under a pandemic. I want to reassure those parents and those students that we wouldn't make this type of decision unless we felt confident in the parameters we have in place, confident in our teachers and staff to carry out those parameters, and confident that our students know what they need to do to be in school and that they want to be in school. If we do have a situation where there's an outbreak, there's a large amount of students and or staff absent due to quarantining, we will continue to make decisions in regards to being online or being in person, just like we did with Root right before Thanksgiving. My hope is that we're not going to have to make those decisions despite the daily monitoring, and we'll be able to continue with our students in the classroom. The last item I have to present tonight, annually, we try and add new courses to the high school. And I'd like to ask our acting high school principal, Dr. Kwolek, if she could come up and share some information about the new course offerings that we'll be asking the board to approve this evening.
Good. All right. Thank you, Mr. Sable. So I wanted to let the board know on your agenda for approval are 3 new courses at the high school that we're going to offer starting next year. The first one is Environmental History of the U.S. Wild America. We're really excited about this. There is a push in the history world to add more courses about environmental history, so we're very excited. We have a teacher interested in teaching this, and it will be an add for kids as an elective. We are also adding Honors French 4 to continue the adding of our French program. And I wanted to clarify for parents too, I think there's some false information out that we will not offer Chinese next year. We are going to offer Chinese 3 and 4 next year to the current students. and we're going to consider offering 3 and 4 the following year, so that all students would be able to take 4 years of Chinese if they started with it. So when I got the opportunity, I wanted to make sure to share that, that Chinese 3 and 4 will be offered next year. And then the last class is to add to our Project Lead the Way series, and it's Project Lead the Way Medical Interventions. So that would be a course for students who have taken the second level of Project Lead the Way. We want to thank the Career Center because that class would be in partnership with them, and we really appreciate their assistance with this. Students will investigate a family and their ways to kind of prevent disease and intervene medically. So we're really excited about those 3 course offerings. None of them require additional staff hires. There's a little bit of movement, but there's no additional cost for staff to offer those. Any questions?
Mr. Chambers, I think the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. The district bank balance decreased by $10.3 million in December to $63 million. This is $5,600,000 below last year at this time. General fund revenues were below last December by $803,000. The combination of state foundation funds and other funds accounted for this decrease. General fund expenditures were above last December by $1.2 million. Salaries, benefits, supplies, and transfers contributed to this decrease. The district had one more pay this start of the fiscal year than last year at this time. One pay for the district is roughly $2 million, so we could see that we are nearly where we should be. The sales tax fund is up to $2.5 million. The district spent approximately $33,000 in December and had a $61,000 correction of charge to the rec center fund. Speaking of the rec center fund, that balance is down to $135,000. The only charge or the only monies that affected it was that correction of charge. The district had $93,000 in investment income in December. The total for the current fiscal year is approximately $434,000 below last year. And this is the first time since 2017 fiscal year that the district has seen these low of interest earnings. And finally, the district has a general true days cash estimated to be 193 days. This is down from November by 32 days and below last year by 27 days. Thank you.
Mr. Chambers, could you expound on that $61,000 correction, what that was? I noticed that in the financials when I was reviewing that report.
Let's see if I can tell what it was. Hold on. This was for summer paving. It was charged out to the sales tax fund because the entire summer paving was charged out at that time. But we had paving that was done here at the rec center for rec center parking itself. And so that was pulled out at this.
And then my next question, I did see where the school district has deposited their or moved their $100,000 for the year.
Well,
When can we expect the city to move theirs over?
well, we are looking for an approval for that for this at this agenda meeting here. The city should be doing it here in January also. So I think if you speak with Keith at the city finance, I believe it would be up, and Jim would probably be able to tell you it's up for January. Yep.
Thank you.
And at this time, we have board member comments, and I'll just lead it off, and then others can jump in here in a minute. And thank you, Mr. Sable, for the kind words for the board. It's always an honor and privilege for the board to serve, and it's just nice that the district recognizes the board, and we appreciate it. And it's a great group to work with, Mr. Chambers and Mr. Sable, and the rest of the crew, our administrative team, our top-notch team, and it's a privilege for the board to be able to work together with you all. I'm very pleased to have students back in the buildings today, and it's a lot of parents, I think, were rejoicing that their kids were back with normal schedules, even though things are being done a little bit differently, and there's a lot of safety and masks and everything that have to go on. I think there's a lot of positive information that we're hearing with that from the community. So I want to thank you for that, and thank you for the work that's being done with the high school to go even beyond hybrid to be able to get more of the students back. Hopefully, I think February 1st, I believe, is still the target. So there's been a lot that's gone on, and we're just really pleased that that there's been so much work put in to make that happen. And we appreciate, whether it's the cleaning staff or, the lunch crew and the teachers, all the great efforts they've done to not only learn to teach online, but to be flexible in such a way. So, so we thank you very much. And those are my comments. I'll pass it on to the next.
Thanks, Rob. I just wanted to echo what Rob said. I think there's a mutual feeling that the board really appreciates the work of the staff. So thank you, Mr. Sable and Mr. Chambers, and all your people, especially as we plowed through this year. And you work so hard to get the kids back in the classroom. Let's hope, we can continue to do that. But we really appreciate all your hard work. And I think I speak for everybody, as Rob said, much, much appreciated. And then the other thing I wanted to mention was, just because it's a personal thing, I don't normally recognize retirements, and I don't want to steal your thunder, Aaron, but we've known Noreen for almost 40 years, and I just wanted to wish Noreen Pafumi the best of the best of the best in her retirement. So that's all I got. Nope.
So, like Mr. Skidmore, Mr. Ross said, glad to see the kids are back in school. Mr. Skidmore said that a lot of parents were grateful for them to be back in school, and I think the kids are even more. I had the opportunity to pick my kids up from Heritage today, and just the noticeable difference in their demeanor when they got home. They were just so happy to see their friends after so long. Second thing, again, Mr. Sable, thanks for the kind words. I just want to add that I think with the kind of dedicated administration that we have, it can be difficult at times, and we make it look easy in the meetings, but having a dedicated staff like that definitely makes it easier for us. And that's it. Thanks.
Again, I think when Mr. Sable put out the announcement Friday before last, and I received a text almost immediately from a parent that said, "Did you just hear the collective hallelujah that just went up across Medina?" So they were definitely, parents were definitely excited. My son at the high school, he was still at home online. He's in the second group, but 2 of his classes were doing on the classroom streaming. So that was, he did enjoy that. So I thank all of the teachers and Tina, who put a lot of effort into making that happen, for sure. And it also too reminded me especially with the older kids at the high school, early release, especially those who have 2 periods together. He came out and said, "Well, I'm done for the day." And I'm like, "What?" And here, so there are just reminding parents that towards the end of the day, the number of students are reduced as well at the high school due to early release, particularly the juniors and the seniors. So instead of sitting in 2 study halls at the end of the day, they get to go home. So that helps with the spacing out that Dr. Kwolek has her big study hall puzzle to help solve that. So those are just a couple of points as far as students in the high school that I had. The facilities committee met January 7th, and there are roofing bid requests that are going out February 2nd. That'll be due back in February 16th in preparation for the roofing repairs for this summer. And also too that the district is looking at utilizing wood fiber material for some playground surfaces, those high fall areas underneath the swings and the monkey bars. That material allows for wheelchair access onto those areas. And Waite Elementary will be the first building to test it out, to see how the new material, how it will work. And if acceptable, then the district will look at putting that same material, same material at the other elementary buildings. And then last, we were advised that in preparation for the students' return, all the HVAC filters were changed out. I believe that was complete at this time. Okay. So that's what I have. Thank you.
I won't take up much time. Thank you, Mr. Sable and your staff for recognizing the board. It is an honor and a pleasure to serve as part of this board. And as Mr. Hilberg said, having great administrators and staff makes it easy for us. So thank you so much. And thank you for the other board members' comments. I echo everything that you have said. I did want to thank our students that have been volunteering for the Pledge of Allegiance the last 2 weeks. Mr. Skidmore, I understand that was your idea, and I appreciate the students volunteering their time. It's nice to be able to see them. I'm not alone when I say I miss having them at the meetings. We used to have a group of students come or a school come and present, and I have missed that due to these restrictions that we've had. So it's nice to at least see them in that aspect. So in terms of committees, the curriculum committee met last Monday. We'll meet again in February, and the policy committee will meet the first week of February as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Parkhurst. Okay, at this time, if we could hand it over for the treasurer's action items, Mr. Chambers.
Yes, if it pleases the board, it's recommended that Board of Education approve December 2020 Treasurer's Report. Item number 2, it is recommended that the Board of Education approve the following supplementals for the 2021 permanent appropriations. We have a $1,000 grant that was given to Andy Kretschy for the robotics club. We have a school safety grant that we're still looking at. We sort of forgot to put this on our permanent appropriations, so we're looking at spending the monies and have to get it on here now. And then finally, we're increasing our auxiliary services from last year. They receive interest income outside of the income that we have. We invest for any monies that we hold for them, and this will put them back up to what their cash is appropriation wise. And then later on, you'll see that we're moving their entire cash over from last year to this year. Item number 3, it's recommended that the Board of Education approve the following fund-to-fund transfers. The general fund transfer that Ms. Pavlik was talking about to the rec center for $100,000. And then the 3 items for the auxiliary service is moving their cash from last year to this year. Thank you.
Very good. We could entertain a motion to accept that.
I'll make the motion to accept the treasurer action items.
Thank
I'll
you.
second.
Thank you. Any questions or comments?
Just one question for Mr. Chambers. I thought there was talk we were going to increase that rec center capital account from 100,000.
There's always been talk about increasing that, but both the board and the city have looked at with their agreement that we leave it at $100,000, and when there is need for more monies, the board will be putting in monies if and when needed.
Thank you.
Do we have any questions or comments further from the board or anything from the public? Hearing none, if you could call roll, please.
Yes, Ms. Palick,
Aye.
Mr. Ross,
Aye.
Mr. Hilberg,
Aye.
Ms. Parkhurst,
Aye.
Mr. Skidmore.
Aye.
Thank you.
And at this point, we have Mr. Sable's items.
It is recommended that the Board of Education accept the following donations to the Medina City Schools. There is one in particular here I would like to point out. I'd like to thank Fire Decks for the donation of $1,000 to our food service department. This is definitely at a time where it's well needed. Their food department really relies on our students as customers in order to balance their budget. And obviously, that's been quite a challenge this year. In addition, our food service department has continued, they were just out there in front of the high school this morning to make sure students have the opportunity to pick up meals even when they're not in school. We do receive federal funding to help offset those costs. However, the amount of funding we receive isn't even close to offset the actual costs in operating food services. It is recommended that the Board of Education review for the second time with possible adoption the following revised policies. The first is a non-discrimination on the basis of sex in district programs or activities. And the second is to approve changes to the standards-based teacher evaluation system. And this is to keep us in line with the state with changes they made at the state level. Number 3, it is recommended that the Board of Education approve the new high school course offerings for the 21-22 school year per Dr. Kwolek's presentation towards the beginning of the meeting. It is recommended that the Board of Education approve the agreement between the Medina City School District and Final Forms for staff and academic services and gatekeeper data management interface in the amount of $34,450. This will replace the existing registration software, which we currently are using Registration Gateway. This is a program that we are currently utilizing within our athletic department, so it'll provide consistency across the district in regards to the programs that we are using, which I think will be helpful for our parents. In addition, there is a soft cost savings by combining the contract with the athletic department. We were able to get a cost savings as compared to what we were paying for Registration Gateway and Final Form separately. It is recommended that the Board of Education approve the agreement between Enterprise Fleet Management and the Medina City School District to lease vehicles at a cost of $61,000 for the first year, at an estimated cost of $58,000 for each of the subsequent 4 years. We are coming to the end of our current lease for trucks in the district. Many of these are the bigger trucks that you see plowing lots and things like that. They're used both in the maintenance department as well as in transportation. Entering this lease agreement brings us a decreased costs and new vehicles. So it's definitely a win rather than purchasing out the lease and maintaining the older vehicles. It is recommended that the Board of Education approve the following service agreements for the 2020-21 school year, and this is Volunteer Now. This is a program that the board approved for the first time last school year. We would like to continue the use of this program heading into next school year. We are very fortunate that we have literally hundreds and hundreds of volunteers in our buildings. And that's something that we were keeping track of through a simple spreadsheet. So this is a much easier way to track our volunteers and to make sure that people are appropriately fingerprinted and approved to be in all of our buildings, and also provides access at the building level for those to be reviewed. And this software is purchased through our communications department. Personnel, it is recommended that the board approve the following personnel recommendations pending completion of all hiring requirement paperwork as determined by our Director of Human Resources. The first is I'd like to recognize Barb Harvilla, and I want to invite Mr. Shields up to say a few words because he has worked very close with her during the past several years.
Thank you, Aaron. I know you always get to talk about our retirees. I appreciate you letting me talk about Barb for a minute. Barb is retiring with nearly 27 years of experience here in Medina City Schools. She started as a part-time secretary at Heritage in 1994. She then moved over to Ella Canavan and ran the office at Ella Canavan as a full-time secretary for 10 years with Carol Sterick and Karen McGinty. And then we brought Barb over to central office. She actually worked in the business office at first as our switchboard and then for many years with John Burkhart as his secretary. And about 6 years ago, Barb was looking to go part-time again. And so she entered into a job share with my department. And it's just been a great fit. Barb has handled our employee insurance, our co-curricular contracts, as well as our wellness program. And in fact, it was Barb who oversees our Health Medina program that we were able to join with the city and the Cleveland Clinic, Medina Hospital to implement here in Medina City Schools. Barb keeps track of everything for that. I just will say that Barb's expertise, her exceptional customer service skills, she takes such great care of our employees, as well as her work ethic are going to be really missed in the department. And I wish her the best. She's going to retire into golfing because she is a very competitive golfer. And she's also going to volunteer, one of her other favorite things. And she'll have a connection still to the school district with her volunteering. But between Barb and then also Noreen, I've got to say Noreen and I started working many years together. So it's like two great employees leaving at the end of this month, both Barb and Noreen. So I wish them both the best. And thank you, Aaron, for letting me talk about Barb for a minute.
Thank you, Mr. Shields. The second position that I want to make note of here on the agenda is Lisa Paloa, Administrative Assistant to the Superintendent, effective January 25th, 2021. This is outstanding news for me. I think maybe not so outstanding news for Mr. Burkhart. We did have a very competitive interview process when we were looking for a replacement. Well, let me take that back. There is no replacement for Noreen. When we were looking for somebody new to step in and fill in upon Noreen's retirement, Lisa's been a part of this district for a long period of time. She's worked in multiple capacities across the district, including at the building level, as well as up at the board office. She's already been working with her transition with Noreen over the course of the past week or so. This is actually Noreen's last week until retirement. The board actually accepted Noreen's retirement. I think it was sometime over the summer, 3 times. As I've said in the past, we were very fortunate that Noreen was willing to hang on and help us out through this pandemic, knowing that it would be difficult for somebody brand new to step into that position with the role she plays in working with the board, as well as working with the board office administration. And I've said this before, but Noreen was one of the first faces I saw after coming into the district. And she was a good mentor to me in my transition to being a superintendent, as well as learning Medina City Schools. Noreen's worked for several different superintendents. I want to say at least 3 or 4. So she's had a wide array of experience, and that showed in her time here. I think probably the best thing that Noreen will be missed for is her kindness and her caring. I know I've had parents that I've talked to that have expressed to me that they're sad that if they call to talk to me and Noreen's not going to answer the phone, they're not going to know what to do because she's so welcoming. And she's that way, has been that way, whether it's been a happy phone call or a challenging phone call, either way. So definitely the district owes Noreen a level of gratitude for her service to the district. And again, I'd like to congratulate Lisa as she transitions into the superintendent's office. The second personnel item, or the third personnel item I would like to bring attention to is the administrative leave of absence. I'd like to welcome and thank Mr. Burkhart for returning from his leave of absence. He actually officially came back about a week ago. I know he's already getting knee deep into the goings on of the district and working to continue to move the business end of the school district forward. We have been playing a collaborative role in operation of the business department. And I must admit, I told him this the first time I met with him, very happy to have him back. So we look forward to continuing to work with Mr. Burkhart, and I have no doubts he'll find an outstanding fit for his secretary and his department. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Sable. And if I could if I could make the motion, actually, I'd like to make a motion that we accept these action items, but with one little modification. And number two, I just want to make sure that we're adopting the policies in number two. So it's items 1, adopting the policies in number 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I'd like to make that motion.
I'll second.
Thank you, Mr. Hilbert. Yep. Any questions or comments?
I do have a couple of questions, Mr. Skidmore. Mr. Sable, for the final forms quote, I saw that the quote is based on 7,100 students, but the volunteer database management system quote references 6,800 students. So just asking or clarifying where the 7,100 number came from?
It's a combined contract with athletics as well as the district, which causes the increased number. It's the athletes.
Okay, that makes sense. Thank you. And actually, the trucks, so I just wanted to clarify that but you did answer my question on that those trucks are used for both maintenance and transportation departments, not just for snow plowing. They're used okay. And then my last question regarding the volunteers, the volunteer software, will our volunteers' information, will they be able to opt out of any Volunteer Now's ability to share their personal contact information to third parties?
And I would imagine so. I'm going to invite Ms. Busby up to address that.
The information that's shared with Volunteer Now is not shared. So it's proprietary. So when a volunteer fills out all the forms, those are kept in their database and doesn't go anywhere else.
Thank you for clarifying that. We all know, we've all had it happen to us. You fill out a form online, next thing you know, you're getting 10 or 12 different emails because that information was shared. Thank you.
It's their BCI and their FBI background checks too.
Okay, excellent. Thank you.
All right.
I just have
any further comments or any questions from the public or comments from the public on this?
Mr. Skidmore, I have a question. Just a quick question about the vehicles, Mr. Sable. Just out of curiosity, how many vehicles do we have roughly in the district, not counting school buses.
And I'm going to invite Mr. Burkhardt up.
And then I also had a follow-up question. That is, are we on a normal replacement cycle with those vehicles?
Good evening. Yes, we have a total of 27 vehicles. That includes the transit vans as well as the trucks and then the ones used in transportation. And yes, we are on a replacement cycle. This round was a batch of 2016s. And then we also have some 2017s that will come up soon to be considered. And what we try to do is balance out the depreciation of those vehicles and then to liquidate them at the right time based on the market so that when we do get the next vehicle, we've got some equity to put back into it.
And just to follow up, is that when we talk about a replacement cycle, are we automatically replacing them? Or do we try to squeeze out, if a vehicle's in good shape, do we try to squeeze out a few more years out of it?
Yeah, it's a balance. We try to squeeze out as much as we can based on the value of the vehicle. But if the resale market for the vehicle is a little better to do it at that point in time, then Enterprise recommends we do that because then we can capture that equity. But yeah, we try to squeeze out as much as we can. The nice thing is we're just typically doing oil changes, routine maintenance, as opposed to the way we used to do it in the past where we had to spend, it got to the point where we were spending a lot of money on older trucks and it just was not cost effective.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, Mr. Burkhardt, one quick question.
Yeah.
Could you mentioned transit.
Mhm.
Could you describe or explain what a transit vehicle is?
Yeah, they're like the conventional vans we used to purchase, but you've probably seen them around. They're like sprint vehicles. They're the larger box type van is what we've been using for student transportation.
They're bright yellow.
Yeah,
Okay.
bright yellow. They're
That's-
safer. They're safer. There's more space for the students and the cargo and stuff. So yeah, they've worked out really well.
Okay, great. Thank you for clarifying. That's what I thought, but I just wanted to make sure.
Yeah.
Thanks.
I have a couple of questions. Mr. Sable, and maybe it's too early to know this yet, but when we transition from registration gateway to final forms, will student data be able to be uploaded from registration gateway to final forms so that parents don't have to do everything from scratch? Currently, they can just update each year the information.
It is going to be carried over. There's still going to need to be annual updates to students' profiles, just like we're doing right now. But we are going to be transferring the data.
Thank you. And then the last, just for clarification, when we were talking about meals, you mentioned that students who, for instance, high schoolers that were not in school today, were remote, were able to pick up meals if so desired. That's also true for MODA students, correct? They are also able to come get meals?
That is correct. And that's for all of our students in the district.
Thank you.
Okay. I don't know if there's any way to tell if there's public question or comment, Mr. Sable, but if not, then if we could call roll.
There is none.
Thank you. Mr. Chambers?
Yes, let me find it. Mr. Skidmore.
Aye.
Mr. Hilberg.
Aye.
Ms. Pavlik.
Aye.
Mr. Ross. Aye. Ms. Parkhurst.
Aye.
Thank you.
And at this point in the agenda, we have the public participation. I can read the disclaimer, but I guess the question is, do we have anybody lined up for that? If we do, then I'll read it. If we don't, then I can dispense with that.
We do not have anyone who's joined the Zoom meeting, so you can skip that.
Okay. All right. So we'll omit that. The next item is executive session. And I will make the motion that we go into executive session for the following: to consider the appointment, employment, dismissal, discipline of a public employee or official for preparation for conducting or reviewing negotiations or bargaining sessions with employees concerning matters of compensation or other items, conditions of their employment. I'm sorry, did I miss something?
Is there a reason?
We need the motion on the Rob.
Do you hear that, Rob?
No,
We need the
sorry,
motion.
sorry.
We need the motion on there.
I'm sorry.
We need you to put the motion on there.
Under employment and dismissal.
On your
discipline, we need that
motion, you need to put demotion.
Sorry, in the agenda. So put the motion on there. Sorry about that. So that would encompass my motion.
I'll second.
We could entertain a second.
Is there anybody joining us?
Yes, the board representative, legal counsel will be joining us this evening in addition to Dr. Kwolek and Mr. Shields.
Okay, Mr. Chambers, if you could call roll.
Yes, Mr. Skidmore,
Aye.
Ms. Parkhurst,
Aye.
Mr. Hilberg,
Aye.
Ms. Pavlik,
Aye.
Mr. Ross.
Aye.
Thank you.
And Mr. Skidmore, there will be no action taken after when we leave executive session, correct?
That's correct. No action will be taken. And Aaron, if you could send me a link for the executive.
Yep, I've got one set up for legal counsel, so I'll send you the same link.
Thank you. See you in a minute.